What this legislation does is four things. First of all, it forces the administration, in the event a final deal is agreed to, it forces the administration to bring all of those details to Congress, including the classified annexes that we would likely not see until 6 months or so after an agreement is reached without this legislation, if we can pass it. Secondly, it keeps the executive branch from being able to lift the congressionally mandated sanctions that we put in place while we have a reasonable period of time to go through the documents that have been provided to us. Thirdly, it allows Congress to take a vote. The vote can take all kinds of forms. It could be a vote of approval. It also causes the leader to decide not to take a vote at all. Or we could take a vote of disapproval. And if we were able to, if we decided that this was not something that was good for our country, not good for the Middle East, then we could cause this vote of disapproval to take place. And if it passed, it would keep the executive branch from being able to lift the congressionally mandated sanctions that we have put in place. And the fourth and very important component is that it causes us to know whether Iran is in compliance or not. This bill stipulates, if passed, that the President would have to certify to us every 90 days as to whether Iran is in compliance. And if there are significant violations on a 10-day basis, let us know that that has taken place so that we can respond accordingly. Let me close by saying this. I believe that everybody in this body hopes that we are able to achieve a negotiated agreement that will keep Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. I think everyone understands that is the best thing for our country. I think everybody also understands that Iran is a country that we have little trust for. Iran is a country that is the major exporter of terrorism in the region. Iran is a country that has a terrible human rights record. Iran is a country that is really moving ahead relative to its ballistic missile design. And obviously, Iran is a country that has been doing some things in its nuclear program that give us reason to believe that they are moving towards a nuclear weapon. One of the worst things that we could possibly do is enter into an agreement with Iran that doesn't keep them from getting a nuclear weapon. In other words, it's one that's faulty, that has flaws, and allows them to get a nuclear weapon. And what that would mean is you'd have a situation where the number one exporter of terrorism in the region not just had access to a nuclear weapon, but very quickly had access to the $130 billion plus in dollars that they have trapped overseas to conduct even more terrorism in the region. For their economy to all of a sudden be growing at more rapid rates, again, to have resources available to conduct even more terrorism in the region. And as you can imagine, having an actor like Iran has acted, and we hope at some point that behavior will change, but as they have acted, having access to a nuclear weapon certainly would create the possibility of nuclear proliferation in the region. So I think this is a very important piece of legislation. I want to thank Senator Cardin for the way that he has come into this and worked with us in a manner to reach an accommodation so that we have sufficient, ample, actually extraordinary support on both sides of the aisle to ensure that Congress has its rightful role in this agreement. That's one of the biggest geopolitical agreements that we will deal with probably during the time that we're here in the United States Senate. So with that, I want to yield the floor to my good friend, Senator Cardin, again, who's done exemplary work in bringing us to this point, and thank him for all of his efforts.